Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Citizen Exclusive, another exciting episode with your host, Mpoki Thompson. I'm at Vodacom Tanzania's headquarters here in Dar es Salaam, and a special guest today. This is none other than the company's managing director, Philip Besiimire. Philip, it's great to meet you again, brother.
Thank you, Poki. Always great to have time and conversations with you.
Absolutely. So I interviewed you in 2022 when you first assumed the role, and here we are again today. So today's conversation is going to focus on Vodacom's major milestone, a silver jubilee, 25 years since it was established in the country. A lot has been happening. There's been a lot of fanfare. There's been a lot of celebration across the board. But more critically, people would want to know, what does 25 years of Vodacom Tanzania operating in the country mean to you, and what are some of the achievements that stand out throughout this period?
Yeah. No, thank you. That's a great question because it's not usual for companies to turn 25. I'm sure you've heard of the statistic about companies that don't live to survive their fifth birthday or fifth anniversary. So for us to have stood the test of time and been here 25 years in Tanzania is actually testament to our resilience as an organization, but also the trust and belief that our customers and other stakeholders have given us. But I think if I reflect on your question, there's a number of things that I sort of want to reflect upon in terms of what 25 years means for us, because I think besides the trust that I'm referring to here, there's also shared progress. We've grown as a company. Customers have grown as individuals in their businesses, in their personal lives. They're businesses that probably started with us many years ago and are just equally 25 years. And those businesses have actually been powered by Vodacom's either connectivity or other solutions that we provide. So for us, that's been big. It's great to see small businesses grow. It's great to see families get connected. It's great to see us opening doors for digital inclusion. I think for Vodacom Tanzania, it's a good reflection of purpose in action, whereby our technology has gone beyond just the nuts and bolts or cables and wires being interconnected and so on. It's about that call that opened doors for you to get the first job, that call that you received when you got maybe a new baby, that call you made to your parents when you graduated, that call you got from your bank manager that your loan had been approved. It's a story of progress. It's a story of opportunity. It's a story of connectedness between company and customer, but also between customer and customer, between business and business. And we're proud to have played a key role in actually bringing that to fruition. Absolutely. If you think about 25 years ago, when there was hardly any connectivity of sort.
Indeed.
And fast forward to today, 25 years, the world has changed. And
Massive,
we're proud to have been central to that and, really pivotal to creating this modernization in communication and enabling Tanzanians. So we're really grateful that the 25 years is not just about Vodacom Tanzania's progress, but also our customers and their own progress.
So 25 years ago, I was 8 years old. So
right. You just gave away your age.
Us guys don't really mind. But then, so my point is, a lot has happened. There's been a lot of volatility across these more than 2 decades, and the impact that Vodacom Tanzania has had in the country cuts across different sectors, from connectivity, as you mentioned, to financial inclusion, ensuring that even rural Tanzania, people who live in the interior are able to make calls, are able to communicate with their families and relatives. Now, what do you think has been the most central transformation, the most central impact that Vodacom as a telecom company has had in Tanzania in the 25 years? Is there that pivotal central impact that the company has had that has shaped the identity that you have in the market today?
Yeah. No, I think, again, it almost maybe is related to the previous question in a way for me, because I think at the center of it all is the fact that we've been able to make meaningful connections with the customers, with the country, with businesses. And that's been core. And then that brings me basically to what our core purpose is, right? Connecting for the future. And we have continuously lived by that core purpose. And whether it's directly with the technology that we provide or the solutions that come off of that, or even going beyond that and going into direct community engagement, whereby we're able to support communities at various levels and various stages of life, be it in education, health, and the likes. But if I look back, I mean, we have been there at the time when things were happening. So, when mobile connectivity, the first basic services were needed to be provided in the country, we were there.
Yes.
When technology was able to transform and get modernized so that people could start, using data services, we were there. We provided for that. When we pivoted into mobile financial services and started to open up the financial ecosystem, we were there. And we've now started going further into other digital sort of solutions, whether it's for businesses, for example, connected devices. In this space here, for example, you can actually ask Alexa to turn on the lights. I hope she didn't hear that and then turn off the lights. But you can actually ask. All these smart solutions, security at home, connectivity of devices in the house like refrigerators, cleaning devices. That's the next wave, and we're going to be there. So I think that to answer your question directly, I think we've always been there at the pivotal moments, and we've always led in that space. I mean, 3 years ago when 5G was just becoming a thing, again, Vodacom Tanzania was at the forefront of bringing that to Tanzania, and we've consistently been there during those times. And that's on the technology side. When I go to the social side, you think about very transformational initiatives like Mama, where we have partnered with government and communities to provide a service that for maybe people in the many urban folks, that maybe for them that's not a key thing, they don't even think about it. But in the rural areas, this is a pregnant mother in distress or a pregnant woman in distress. She's in her third trimester. She needs to get to a health facility and there's no ambulance. But through our technology and USAID, we've been able to provide a community ambulance solution, whereby a local driver who's not in any way a medical practitioner actually provides an ambulance service in the most remote areas. And many women have had their have had their babies saved or their own lives saved in that regard. Those are the things that I think for me, when you ask, what was pivotal, those are the points in time when we were present, and actually it enhanced our citizenship, if I could call it, in Tanzania. Yeah.
Now, you've touched on Vodacom's impact from an ESG perspective, and I believe your ESG agenda is mapped around empowering people, protecting the planet, and beyond that. Now, can you just mention, because as a corporate entity that's operating in Tanzania, aside from making massive profits, doing the core business, there's also that element of how do you impact the community beyond the core services. You've mentioned you've had the Mama, the financial inclusion has been a key agenda. Can you just tell us in brief what shapes your ESG approach to the markets? That as Vodacom Tanzania, when you're looking beyond your core operations, how do you ensure that the impact that you're having in society on an ESG perspective is sustainable beyond what people know you for?
Yeah, I think, again, another great question, because we believe that ESG is beyond the buzzwords. It's actually integrated and embedded into who we are as Vodacom. So for that reason, you'll find that we think about it even beyond, let me call it the traditional CSR mindset, where people think, or organizations in the past used to think that, donating a check and handing over a check is what sustainability was about. I think we've since matured and moved on from that space, and we are intentional about the products and solutions we build. We are intentional about using our technology and our people to actually make meaningful contributions to the community. So firstly, our technology, which is really what we are good at, which is our starting point or our foundation. Our technology is built and designed to solve for human centered problems. So, or opportunities. So we're not just putting out products. We're putting out products or solutions that we believe solve real human problems, real customer problems. So if you take an example of a product like Mkoba, for us, we believe it's key to our ESG agenda. Why? Because we are empowering people. Mkoba, traditionally, this the product or the way that solution works is, people meet, have it's a group of people come together, agree on a sort of savings mechanism, and they elect a chairperson and a secretary. And in the past, they would have a box where they would put the money, and the chairman and treasurer or chairman and secretary would have the key to that box, and you just keep putting money in there. And at the end of the day, you come back to see if the money is there, and sometimes it's not. It's not there. But we've taken an existing, let me say, use case in the market or an existing opportunity in the market and digitized it. And all of a sudden, 20 plus, 30 plus people in a group can actually see there's transparency. They can all see what they're contributing to the group. They can see what their interest bearing balances are. They can see who's borrowed, who's withdrawn. There's clear transparency. And now we have more than 500,000 groups with an average of 20 plus people in there. And the majority of these are women. Now, why do I call out women? Again, which talks to period around empowering people. This is a segment in the population that has traditionally been excluded in financial decisions. Now they've got control over their finances. They can see it on their phone. So that's an example of where we've actually taken technology and used it in an intentional way to actually cement our purpose or our existence. And there's so many other instances where actually we're using technology in a deliberate way to make a difference in the society.
Indeed. Now, when we talk about ESG, for many companies that are private sector based, there is that thought of compromise. How do you ensure that there is business continuity, but as well delivering on environmental consciousness or having social impact? As a company, how do you balance between the two, ensuring that you do meet the ESG goals, but then also the business case maintains, because again, it is what will make you be able to fund it, be able to support the ESG initiatives. How do you create a balance between the two?
So if you think about some of the products, for example, that I was talking about, right, that's on the side that actually creates sustainability, because now you're using your technology to build products that are impactful, products that can scale, products that will grow basically and give you a return. So that's on the one side. So you being intentional about the type of products and types of solutions or innovations that you drive as an organization, right? So that's on the let me say the commercial side. But also we've got other initiatives, for example, as a company, that in the short term it looks expensive, it's a cost, but in the long term it makes a difference on your bottom line, yes, but also on the environment, as an example.
But the core focus of ESG is still the bottom line. I mean, it is the impact that you're going to have.
Absolutely. And that's something I'm saying initially. In the short term, it may have an impact on your bottom line, which is like we clap for that, right? But actually in the long term, it's got an impact on the environment, as an example. So take a case of, we now have almost 80% of our network infrastructure, more than 80% of our network infrastructure is on national grid. We've taken our network off generators that burn fossil fuels and so on. We deliberate about that. Today, we are modernizing our fleet and bringing in hybrid vehicles so that we can cut down again on burning of petrol and the likes. We have a water filtration system here where we recycle water within the building. Those are examples of deliberate initiatives to actually embed, ESG principles without. In the short term, it looks like a cost, but in the long term, it impacts the bottom line. In that now these are costs that you've actually removed from your from your organization or from your cost structure. So I think it's a balancing act. On the commercial side, build products and solutions that actually are human-centered and are addressing real human needs. Then on a practical, operational, or functional way, start to actually make meaningful changes to remove any um, any 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 things that you're doing that are actually impacting the environment, as an example. And that's why I get the example of our sites, cars, water, printing, and all that kind of. These are small things you eliminate, like being paperless. You're intentional about that, right?
Yeah. So now let's look at the numbers that actually matter. Now, that's the business performance. You had an annual general meeting, I think last week, where we got to know what your profit margins are up until March 2025. And Vodacom is profitable, so over 90 billion in net profit. And you're the market leaders when it comes to data subscription, when it comes to mobile subscription. You've maintained that. Now, can you tell us what does that mean as a company? Because at a group level, Vodacom Group, Vodacom Tanzania, I believe, right now at the moment, and correct me if I'm wrong, contributes the biggest margin in terms of profits. What does that identity or what does that performance level mean to you as the CEO, but also now for Vodacom Tanzania as a telecom in the country?
Okay, so maybe firstly, just to a small correction, we don't contribute the biggest to the group, and I hope one day it will happen. We will get there, but we are one of the most, we are one of the fastest growing, or one of the, actually, if I'm not mistaken, the fastest growing within the group, maybe bar Egypt, right? So we are we are visible and within the group as a real force to reckon with. So I'm proud of the work that our team does in Tanzania, and obviously thankful and grateful of the support that our customers and partners give us here in Tanzania. I think what it means for me is that one that it's a responsibility that we're given, and as either as leaders or as employees of this organization, to actually be custodians of an organization as great as Vodacom. But also, it's a big responsibility that customers entrust with us to actually be the to be their provider of connectivity, their provider of financial services platforms, and the provider of all sorts of smart innovations that we provide. So for me, it's a very big responsibility, and I always take it with the humility that it deserves. That we are blessed to be in such positions, whether it's myself or my team. But personally, it's also a big it's a big responsibility for myself, but also a very humbling it's a very humbling responsibility to be able to lead this organization. And I think ultimately it comes down to continuing to lead with clarity, make sure that we're living consistent and true to our values as an organization, doubling down on our purpose, and making sure that everything that we do, that is our North Star, that we're always looking back to say, okay, is this consistent with what we are about as an organization? So I think it's been it's great to see that we have returned to profitability. I think the last time we had such a sit-down interview, we had just been profitable that year. In I think that was financial year 2023. We paid dividends in 2023, 2024, and now 2025. So there's consistency in terms of our performance. And the beauty of that as well is that actually each year our share price per dividend has continued to increase. This year we will be paying 20.20 shillings per dividend, and still on the lower end, but I think the trajectory is in the right direction, and shareholders should actually be starting to nod in appreciation that actually the business is on the right trajectory.
Okay. Now, alluding to my earlier assumption that Vodacom Tanzania was contributing the largest share of profit, what do you think that will be the case for Vodacom Tanzania now to be at the apex? From where you're standing at the moment, what is your trajectory within that scale?
Look, there's still room for growth in this market, right?
Yes.
It's we're lucky to be in a business space, in a business that where opportunities are, maybe I should say, infinite. There's endless opportunities out there. There's always new opportunities and that arise in this market, but also in this sector. I think many years ago, people thought that, you know, there was that was the end of telco because data when data became pervasive, it was now the OTTs that were going to play a role, and that was going to be their space. But we've continued to innovate, and now we compete with them and we exist with them, right? The same has happened. We then were able to pivot into financial services. And with financial services, we've also continued to even double down on that and gone into newer spaces. For example, micro lending, micro insurance, payments. Those are new areas that have emerged. So if you looked back many years ago, one would have said, maybe peer-to-peer and cash out are going to, which was the core products in mobile money or M-Pesa, were going to sort of start waning because other players would come into that space. But we've continued to evolve. So I think the big thing that for us, what will take us there is that ability to continue innovating customer relevant products and solutions, to be customer centric, and think about the customer when we design products, to have a growth and performance mindset. We can never be satisfied with what we've achieved. We've got to remain hungry, and humble. And then we've got to be able to, this is a very competitive market. We've got to be able to execute with rigor. There's no room for complacency. Yes, you celebrate your achievements, but you get on with the job immediately after. Absolutely. So execution with rigor is important. And then I think very importantly, I've got an amazing team at Vodacom Tanzania, and just continuing to build that team, make sure that all the talented people in this organization continue to thrive, create for them an environment where they're able to continue being innovative, excelling, but also build a pipeline, the new talent, young graduates from the universities and the colleges, create a pipeline that those people can come into the organization and see themselves as being the future of that. And especially because what they do when they come in as the young people, they challenge us. To the world we see today, the world that they live in is not the world that we were in when we joined these organizations many years ago, right? These are kids that are leaving college with an AI-centered mindset, right? They are digital first, they are tech first. We were sort of late adopters. We caught on tech and learned it and so on. But these kids have grown with it. So they're able to bring a completely different mindset and DNA to the organization, and we embrace them a lot. So at the moment, for example, we have, if I'm not mistaken, more than 50 interns from various universities that are here for 3 months before they go back to their colleges. And that is a way of bringing in talent. And when they get to graduate level, we will then have graduate intakes. And we continue sort of refreshing the organization and making sure that at various levels, we are not becoming complacent or dated.
Absolutely. Now, looking at how the business has evolved, the telecom business in its entirety, not just Vodacom. Initially, when it first started, it was voice and SMS, connecting people. That was the core business. But as you've mentioned, transformation has necessitated the business to also transform. And even right now, I think the biggest revenue generator is it might not be voice, might not be SMS. These other different streams. Now, that has a positive and a negative. When you talk to some of your consumers, they might feel a bit frustrated that, Vodacom as a telecom company that now identifies as a digital enabler, a digital lifestyle company, that you're connecting people in a different way, in a digitized way. What does that speak now to what gave Vodacom that identity? Voice, SMS. How are you addressing some of these grievances that the consumers might share about, today, let's say maybe bundle might be a bit expensive. Calling someone might be a bit expensive. How are you ensuring that as you scale your business, as you enter into these different revenue streams, the trust is maintained, the consumers?
Yeah. No, look, again, a great question. And I want to correct, bundles are not expensive.
Okay.
If you benchmark prices across
Yeah,
the
relative
region,
to others. Yeah.
yeah, you would be surprised.
Okay.
Actually, we had a meeting the other day with some, one of the government institutions. It was interesting. They were the ones who were asking us, why
Have
is,
you?
no, why is the what we call average revenue per user in
Yes.
Tanzania less than $1, when in some of the neighboring countries that they quoted, they were saying it's about $3 and so on. Said it comes down to price. Our
Yeah,
prices are
absolutely.
low.
Yeah.
No, but on a serious note, look, if you look at our strategy, some of the things that one of the pillars in our strategy, and it is in our annual financial statement, financial report.
Yes.
One of the pillars there is we've called it protecting the core.
Because-
Protecting the core for us is those basic, what I call basic products that actually built this business. Those are still relevant. That's usually the primary entry point for a customer, a new customer. Customer is joining Vodacom usually because they want to make a call, because they want to send an SMS, an email, a WhatsApp message, or because they want to get onto any one of these social platforms, right? So it's important that those core products that now all of a sudden don't seem as cool as they were many years ago, that are also taken care of. So
Yeah.
there is continuous pricing optimization, continuous, product innovation to make those products relevant and usable for customers. So that's really core to what we're doing. And that's why we actually are intentional, and we call it out in our strategy, that we need to protect the core. And that's protecting voice and data, make sure it continues to grow, because there are customers who continue to use those products.
Absolutely.
And I mean, when I was in I think Kigoma sometime last year, and you'd be surprised. There was we had a market visit and so on, and there's elderly customers that couldn't read or write, but they were on the internet and they had access. They could watch videos that you guys post from your media channels,
Yeah.
and they get the news.
Get the news.
They can't read or write, but at least they've figured out how to get onto your YouTube channels.
Yes.
and so on. And that becomes a source of information for them and being connected to the world, right? Now, you cannot ignore that customer. They may not be advanced to use, chat GPT and all these other things, but that they need their first reason to connect was to get onto the internet so that they could get news. So you have to look after those customers. So products have to be affordable, they have to be relevant, they have to be accessible, and we have to continue playing our role as a responsible business by educating customers. So, for example, one of the things that we're now busy with, and you will hear from time to time what we call M-Pesa Kitani, where tens of our staff go out into the market and meet with customers. And part of that is really to address financial literacy. So we go there and teach customers, how do you protect your money on your M-Pesa wallet? Don't share your PIN with anybody, because fraud is a real issue.
Yes.
So it's those things that we continue to do to make sure we protect the core, to address the question with regards to those basic services, voice and data.
Okay. So now, Philip, let's talk about Vision 2050. Vodacom today connects over 25 million Tanzanians. And as a telecom company, you play an integral role in ensuring that the government's plan or the government's objective of digitizing Tanzania, ensuring that there's a lot of connectivity in the country, is achieved. How does your strategic approach to the market, to the operations in the country, tie into the government Vision 2050?
Yeah. No, first I want to congratulate the government of Tanzania and the president herself on the successfully launching the Vision 2050. It's a very ambitious vision, very clear in terms of direction that the country wants to take. And I think importantly, it's very relevant to the times that we're in and to the direction, the future that is anticipated. So really congratulations in that regard. What I love about this Vision 2050 is that there is synergies for us, or various areas for us to align in. But core to it is that I think the government has been very intentional on actually calling out digital enablement as a cornerstone for realizing Vision 2050.
Yes.
So as a player in this space, I think that actually presents us with a unique opportunity to be a critical enabler for for government and Tanzania realizing this Vision 2050. I think first and most important is for us to we have to continue building the infrastructure that's required to enable digital. So I think continuous investment is key in the relevant modern infrastructures that will actually make us future ready. Because when you say 25 years from now, we need to still be able to cater, we need to think, to have the foresight to think about the products, the solutions, and the capabilities that will be required 5, 10, 15 years from today. So that's something that we're continuously doing. At the moment, incidentally, we are modernizing our entire network, for example, and it's going to be the most modern network in Tanzania. But when we've got it done by early to mid next year, the whole network will be modernized. We're busy modernizing our M-Pesa platform to make it fully digital, meaning that there's containerization of different applications, zero downtime. When one service is down, it doesn't mean the whole platform is down. It's different. They can actually move services from one side to the other side seamlessly. Customers would not notice any of this. So really the infrastructure is going to be core for us. The second thing is basically aligning and identifying those areas that the government is intent on. So how do we plug into education? How do we plug into health? And how do we plug into agriculture? Those are areas that the government is keen on either commercializing, expanding, transforming, or even overhauling. And we need to be relevant. So when you think about smart agriculture, a farmer should be able to take a loan instantly wherever they are, not have to travel distances. A farmer should be able to get pricing for commodities on their phone. A farmer should be able to find inputs from wherever they are. That's really the power of technology that we should be able to bring. So I see that we will be pivotal in terms of infrastructure, but also in terms of actually creating the right solutions that match or mirror the key areas that the Vision 2050 highlights.
Yeah, so you spoke about synergies and you highlighted in part the type of synergies that Vodacom as a telecom company has with the government across education, health, and what have you. Now let's talk about the startups. The startup ecosystem here in Tanzania is growing relative to others in the entire African continent. We're not among the top 4. Of course, you have the Nigerias, you have the South Africa, you have the Kenya, you have Egypt, but we are a growing market and we do have a brilliant rising population of smart Tanzanians. How is Vodacom now supporting that future? How are you supporting the startup ecosystem through different initiatives?
Yeah, no, brilliant. I mean, and that's something that warms my heart. When I got here, one of the programs that I found at Vodacom Tanzania was the Vodacom Digital Accelerator Program.
Yes.
And we're now in season 4, if I'm not mistaken. And what you will see is that each year we've continued to evolve, grow, make it bigger, better, so that we can align with the trends of startups, not just in Tanzania, but also globally. The reason I give this example is just to show that we are actually firm believers that that is where growth in the future is going to come from. The private sector, companies the size of Vodacom and the like, you're only going to get so many at any one time. So what's going to happen is that you need many of these small companies to be the drivers of the economy, create employment, economic growth, and really be the backbone of the country's growth. So we're really happy to be playing in that space, and we do play a different space. Like I said, in the Vodacom Digital Accelerator, it's really an opportunity for us to get these startups into a sprint where they get given some almost boot camp support to get them investment grade ready, so that when they're done with the program, they can actually pitch to investors with clarity, with clear intention, and with a good growth story that the investors can buy into. We've now evolved last year and this year. We've now evolved, gotten on board partner and technical. Knowledge and technical partners that work with us. And last year we had 7+ startups that, for example, spent a couple of weeks in China, visiting, or supported by Vodacom Digital Accelerator, visiting, startups and the founders and the likes, just to see how does the startup world think when they're beyond Tanzania. Do they think about in-country? Do they think global? Do they think regional? How do they go about sourcing for investment? How do they find partners? How do they find the tech that they use, and so on? So it was really great exposure, and to see these young people talking to, big founders back in China. We then also made, they had an opportunity to go to the US because of our partnership with Mass Challenge. So they were in Boston and DC for a couple of weeks to meet again entrepreneurs and all these young people. And we've since created a mentorship lane for them, where they now have this global mentorship network through the Mass Challenge, where they continue to do this. So for us, that's key. But I think most importantly is also to open up our environment and ecosystem for them to plug into. So we have an open API environment. Startups can plug into, for example, M-Pesa, and use it as a payment platform. And we have a few of them that have actually been able to do this, and you can see that they are growing, because all of a sudden you have access to 25 million wallets that you could plug into. So we believe that this is an area that will continue to thrive. There's many players in the country that are playing different roles in different platforms where I have been to talk about the startups. One of the things that I've called for is really collaboration amongst the big players in this startup ecosystem, whether it's sponsors, funders, innovators, and so on. Instead of doing things piecemeal and everyone individually, that actually we can bring this all together and work together to solve for a bigger.
But there is a concern at times that you find like a big company, the stature of Vodacom, might be threatened by these different innovators who offer some of the services that you're in. What's your response to such concern that, when we enter into the market, as a young Tanzanian, I'm very innovative. I've come up with this solution that maybe also offers a service that Vodacom offers that is much cheaper. Do you find that as a threat, or how do you now onboard them? How do you support them so as to ensure that Tanzanians are able to access the service?
No, I think it's a misplaced sort of concern, because we have, I think the startup that I was thinking about, they called Tunza. I think it's called Tunza.
Tunza,
They are now up as an example. They offer a pay now, buy now, pay later kind of capability. They are growing. I think the challenges that we find mainly with startups is usually for us twofold. Our onboarding criteria when it comes to things like cybersecurity is very strenuous. And then the other one is with data privacy, given the Data Privacy Act that was passed recently. Those two tend to be problematic for small companies, young people that are joining. But otherwise, when we open, I always say to startups that I meet, or even other companies, that the opportunities in Tanzania are countless. There is no one company that can solve them on their own.
Absolutely.
You need to partner. Today, when I think in a while back, I was in a discussion with the governor of the central bank, right? And he was saying that more than 85% of transactions that take place in Dar es Salaam, which is really the capital, this is the economic hub. More than 85% of the transactions, he said, I think, were still cash. If you were to ask me who's the competitor, who's the enemy, it's cash. It's not the startup that is trying to solve for a few 100,000 customers. Because if I can get many more of those startups to be part of my ecosystem, so that we can make that 85% cash 50, 35, and then eventually, a cashless society, I would have won this battle. I would retire in peace. So I think it's a misconception. I think people need to be open-minded and understand partnership. I think the message for me to the startup community, the message to innovators out there is that collaboration, of course, there's always going to be tension. There's things that we believe we can do, and there's things that they believe we can do. But happy tension is good. We will always find each other. But I would really discourage against this sort of linear and I can do it all myself, because even at Vodacom, we are resisting that. We are saying, come partner with us. Let's find solutions. And sometimes if it's an idea we don't believe we can partner with, let's be honest about it. We cannot do this with you. And saying we cannot do this with you doesn't mean that we want to do it by ourselves. No. Saying that maybe we don't want to do it now. It's a question of priorities. So that also comes into play. We are not able to, I think, partner with everybody on everything. We can only do so much. But I think my call is really for the bigger ecosystem to open up. Not just Vodacom, but everyone else needs to open up. Whether it's banks, other telcos, and so on. We all need to open up and be more collaborative. And then we need to find we need to get a convener of sorts whereby we all come together and try to avoid duplication and wastage of resources, because many times we're all doing the same thing, and all we're doing is putting a different logo to it. But we could actually sort of be more optimal with our resourcing and actually see the ecosystem that you're talking about even get more vibrant.
Okay. Now, speaking of partnerships, you've mentioned banks. For the longest, there has been this sort of push and pull between telecoms and banks. Banks saying that now telecoms are entering into the financial services operations. We have seen Vodacom, you've partnered with the Stanbic, but on the ESG perspective, supporting the social development, social community. What is your view about how banks and telecom can thrive in this ecosystem and ensure that at the end of the day, the services that you offer, whether similar or not, are impacting the community and enabling a Tanzanian to afford accessing these services at the cheapest cost? And do you feel that there is still that tiff between banks and telecoms?
No, I don't think it's a tiff. I think for me, it's really finding each other in terms of what's our core competency versus what their core competencies. I've always thought, again, that's another misplaced tension point, because if you read the FinScope report, 2023, 22, 23, I think, financial services, financial inclusion has grown to almost 72%, if I'm not mistaken, from 65, right? Percent. The biggest driver of that, the report itself says, is driven by mobile money or mobile money players. And what is very clear and evident I think to everybody is that I always say we are the rails to a banked population. We are the ones that are actually going out there and getting customers that have never thought of being into the formal financial services. We start to formalize them with the most basic of services. And as they become mature with the kind of financial services that they're taking from us, they become easily bankable customers. Yes. So I think it's a fallacy to think that we are outrightly competitors. Of course, there will always be areas where we compete, but I think for me the bigger good here is that we are on the hunt for financial inclusion. We go and bring those into the rails, and once they're on the rails, they actually become formal. Look at what's happened with digital lending. Today, we have more than close to 3 million customers that take our overdraft product facilities like Songesha. These are customers that previously had no credit history, mostly had no credit history. They're looking for a small top-up of their wallet so that they can complete a transaction. So where is the competition here? Because if I'm at a pharmacy now and I'm trying to buy some medicine and I'm short by 2,000 shillings, is the bank going to give you 2,000 shillings? And when will they give you that 2,000 shillings? What's the process of getting that 2,000 shillings? But with your M-Pesa wallet, you get it instantly. And then I'll get the medicine for my father, mother, daughter, son, and off I go. That's the we had a completely different area. We have products like Empower, right? Small loans, customers taking loans 100,000, 150,000, 200,000, right? This is a mom atelier who wakes up at 5 a.m., borrows this money so that she can buy her wholesale, wheat flour, oil, and everything, so that she makes her vitumbua. She needs that money for just 7 days, so that she can pay it back. She doesn't need a long application form. She doesn't need whatever. We are enabling the economy to move. Now, once she starts graduating, because she's borrowing 100,000 today, next her business grows. She borrows 300,000. Business grows. She wants 1 million shillings. Business grows. She now needs 5 million shillings. That's the kind of customer the bank wants. The customer wants a 5 million customer. I cannot lend 5 million because the central bank doesn't allow me to. So I've already graduated this customer for you. So I do all the hard work and hand them over to the banks. So I don't think there's a thief per se. Maybe in some areas due to probably misinformation in some parts, not understanding for me the broader ecosystem. True. I think they completely missed the point. But I go back to the point I made earlier. 85% of transactions are still cash. And that's the enemy, not Vodacom, not M-Pesa. Cash is the enemy here. And we need to be attacking cash and trying to say, how do we digitize collectively? If I'm able to get another 1 million, 2 million users into the digital financial ecosystem, it plays out for everybody, because those 2 million in 3 years' time are going to be bankable customers. True.
Yes. So as we're almost wrapping up, if you were to bet on one big idea that would transform the telecom industry in Tanzania and beyond, what do you think that idea would be, considering the current dynamics?
That's a good one. I think this is a very tricky question, because we are in a very, very sort of fluid space. Technology changes every day. But I really think that AI is probably going to be a big transformer of the world, of organizations, of our lifestyles, and governments. I think AI's capabilities are we're just scratching the surface today. And I think when telecoms start really embracing AI capabilities at an industrial level, you will see a lot of pace in terms of new solutions, enablements, and capabilities. Today, you still have some of us where you still send engineers to sites to try and figure out what happened at the site. In some other countries, AI capabilities have operators in some other countries have already changed this and have overlaid AI, and agentic AI, by the way, is even better capabilities over their applications and solutions, and they can actually gather these insights on the network way before the event on the network happens. And that agent AI is able to actually give you an alert 2 hours before and tell you, hey, go to the site in Kinondoni and rectify 1, 2, 3 things, because in 3 hours' time, it's likely to go down either due to power overheating or a misconfiguration, all this kind of, and so on and so forth. It will help us with capacity planning. But I'm looking at it, for example, at an organizational level, but even at an individual level, it will simplify how you do things. I mean, with agentic AI, with that placed on our app, you actually then don't need all these sophistications that are being built on apps, because the agent, you can actually ask the agent on your app to do things for you. I want to book a flight, and I want to be able to leave at 1 p.m. I want one stop. I don't want and it will book the flight for you. And you can even say book and pay, and it will do all that without you being involved. I think it's going to transform the way we do things. So if you ask me one big bet, maybe it's that. Yeah, I may be off the cuff, but I think it's that.
Absolutely. So as the captain of the Vodacom Tanzania ship in Tanzania, What is that one thing, or maybe the top three priorities that you think, if addressed either by the government or your private sector players, would enable Tanzania to exponentially grow within this market? The question is, what's the biggest challenge that you're facing at the moment in your business?
Okay, that sounds like a tricky question, but look, I think at this scale of business, what you want is policy certainty. And whether it's direct regulation, or in terms of, for example, the regulations that come to us through TCRA, and that's industry regulations, or whether it's tax policy. I mean, you want certainty in that space. You don't want to be on this, okay, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Is this year the minister is reading the budget? Are they going to increase tax on X? Are they going to introduce a new levy? Are they going? So I think for me, certainty around policy is really a big thing, so that you can actually invest with confidence, or even lay out your plans for business and the future with clarity and confidence. So for me, that's the one big thing that I would ask. Look, I must give it to government. I think we've come a long way from times when it was basically one way to now where there's a level of dialogue and collaboration or engagements in terms of some of the policies that are being considered, right? But there's still opportunities really to make that even more efficient. So
Absolutely.
I would say that's probably the biggest one. I think the second thing is really for us, it's if I look at the Vision 2050 and some of the big call outs there, like I said, digital, for example, a digital economy is one of the big things there. That digital economy is going to need a lot of infrastructure. So if I look at the ambition that the government has, where the current digital infrastructure is at, that gap is massive. And we've got to find an optimal way of saying, how do we accelerate investment? And the economics of these businesses, of telco generally, and I'm speaking here broadly, not just Vodacom, I think as a sector, the economics of these businesses have to get better. Yes, you said we made 90 billion shillings in profit, but look at our peers in the region. They're making 3 times that. So the economics of this needs to get better, so that of our business need to get better. And there's a conversation that we need to have with government in terms of, okay, what is it that we need to both on our side do, their side do, just to enable these businesses to grow, so that there is a better return on investment to shareholders, and as a result, more funds for us to invest to actually bridge that digital infrastructure gap that's required to meet the Vision 2050.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no coincidence that every investor that I talk to, they often mention policy predictability, policy certainty. Philip Besiimire, it has been a pleasure having a conversation with you as Vodacom marks 25 years here in Tanzania. Until next time.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
It's been a pleasure. You were with me, Mpoki Thompson, for the Citizen Exclusive. We were here at Vodacom Tanzania headquarters in Dar es Salaam. We were with the Managing Director, Philip Besiimire. That's a wrap for today's episode. Until next time, adios.